You're watching HQ Spotlight on CBS Sports Network. Now, heading into the draft, of course, there's a lot of speculation that Shedeur Sanders is going to go to the Steelers, that number 21 overall pick. And then simultaneously, we're all sitting here waiting on what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. Is he going to retire? Is he going to go to the Steelers potentially? The saga continues for him, but the Steelers, all that to say, with that number 21, overall pick, they went the D tackle route and Derek Harmon out of Oregon. So here is what our resident Steeler, Bryant McFadden, has to say about the Aaron Rodgers, Shedeur situation of it all as it pertains to Pittsburgh. Take a listen.
At some point in time, Aaron, you have to make a decision. Or if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, at some point in time, you have to move on. And I think this upcoming week is the deadline, is the indirect deadline, right? With the NFL draft taking place on Thursday throughout the entire weekend. I believe by Friday, Aaron Rodgers either will say, I'm playing with the Pittsburgh Steelers, or I believe he will say, I'm not playing with the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm retiring. And if you're Pittsburgh, that has to be the deadline for you, because the offseason regimen will start next week, and after the draft, everything is rolling.
All right, so Aaron Rodgers does not care at all what BMAC has to say. In fact, the Steelers at one point, they even put their own timeline on it, saying, we think he should make a decision by, I forget whatever date it was in April. We've passed that, though. Why, for you, was it important for this to be the deadline? And thoughts on Aaron Rodgers not giving a flip about it?
Well, because, and I said Friday would be the deadline, but I think more realistically speaking, the weekend, once the draft is over, which will be Sunday, because we still have tonight, we still have Saturday, and of course nothing takes place on Sunday, because you want to understand what your roster looks like if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. You've already added the draft picks. You really did a lot of work already via free agency. It's now starting to get everyone together to try to put together this championship-like run. So if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, Aaron, you've seen what we've done. You've seen what additions we made via free agency. You've seen exactly what we did throughout the draft. What are you doing? Because time is of the essence. Think about this. The season is literally, 3 months away. You potentially could have a new quarterback, never being a part of this team, never being a part of this organization, and most importantly, not knowing this playbook. He needs to be with the guys to be as acclimated as possible, to be at his best, and most importantly, establishing team camaraderie with the new guys that will be helping you be at your best. And if you're Pittsburgh, chemistry and rhythm is very, very important. Emory, you know this playing the offensive side. Chemistry and rhythm is important. The only way you can create that and have that is by repetition. So if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, you waited long enough, in my opinion. But once the draft is over, you need to know if he's playing with you or if he's not, so you can move on and try to make the necessary additions.
And we're talking about the receivers they just brought in, right? DK Metcalf, and you also have George Pickens, two alpha dogs out there, wide out. You kind of want to get these guys on the same page so you can avoid what we saw during the season with him and Garrett Wilson. And we thought that was some good camaraderie that he built with him throughout the time he was there. So you got those two receivers out there. You want to get these guys in play. And if you're Pittsburgh, if you can come in now, we can then gauge, do we get a different quarterback as opposed to another quarterback later, because we now know we have you. Do we get someone that's more closer to starting, or someone that we can kind of take our time and develop because we have you in tow? That's why him holding up the spot is kind of keeping everything kind of in flux.
BMAC, take us behind the scenes. Is there any chance they're consulting or did consult with Rodgers on what he would like to see them do in the draft, kind of the pieces that he wanted to be there? Not at all.
What I'm hoping, Amanda, Jacqueline, Emory, is that silently they got some type of confirmation from Aaron Rodgers that he would be a Pittsburgh Steelers for them to wait this long, because this is not a Pittsburgh thing to do. And I think that would make me feel a little better throughout this entire ordeal if they know Aaron is going to be a part of the team and they're just kind of keeping things quietly. But if they really in the blind as well, this is a real big gamble, because to your point, Emory, the more time you wait, the less options you have. You have Mason Rudolph, you have Skylar Thompson. No one else. Now, Omar Khan did state that they will go to training camp with at least 4 quarterbacks. So there will be 2 additions, and hopefully Aaron Rodgers is one of those additions or not. But currently only having 2, they have to make two more moves to be able to have those 4 quarterbacks that he alluded to.
So is there a world where, say, Aaron Rodgers doesn't end up in Pittsburgh, and he doesn't retire, that could be a possibility, right? So then what? What are we waiting on for Aaron Rodgers? What other teams are out there? What other situations, Emory, come to mind that he could be in if it's not Pittsburgh and it's not retirement?
He's going to go pro in something else. Going to have to go and become on TV, because at the end of the day, like, you can't keep holding these franchises ransom where, hey, I'm going to take my time with this decision. Well, the NFL is a 24-hour, 7 days a week, 12 months out of the year type deal, and we have to plan out in front. And if you're hamstringing us along, we have to make decisions based on what is best for the team. So I love what Aaron Glenn did. Like, hey, man, we're going to help you make the decision. Yeah. We're going in somewhere else, right? We're going in another direction. Like, don't, string us along. And that's what Pittsburgh, I feel like, has to do.
And then to your point, Jacqueline, with that question, if Aaron Rodgers tells Pittsburgh no, but he still wants to play, clearly he doesn't fit or like the offensive scheme with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that's a big, major part in determining if Aaron Rodgers is all in or if he's a bit reserved. Because offensively, there's some things he doesn't like within the scheme in terms of what type of player he is. Now, to answer your question, if it's not the Pittsburgh Steelers and he would like to continue to play in the NFL, maybe he's waiting to see exactly what happens with the Minnesota Vikings and J.J. McCarthy, becoming the first start, of course, the starter for the organization. He basically redshirted his entire rookie campaign. Now he's getting the keys. What happens if he gets off to a rocky start with the organization? He's not quite ready to take over the offense. Maybe Aaron Rodgers will say, hey, I'm ready. I have enough in the tank to do so and be successful. So this is a very, very weird situation to be in because I love the Pittsburgh Steelers, but just having someone kind of hold us hostage to this level is something I'm not familiar with.
So take us to the draft. I mean, they don't have a second-round pick. Potentially they could trade up into the second round to get a quarterback there. They could wait a little bit longer with what they were saying about, hey, we want these quarterbacks going into training camp. Do you feel like at some point one of these picks has to be a quarterback?
No question. Now, to your point, not having a second rounder, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Pittsburgh Steelers in a chain trying to get into the second rounder, especially the back end if one of these quarterbacks that they're high on is still available. It's going to take quite a few resources to do so, but if there's a guy that you like we saw with them in Harmon, regardless of what the outsiders say about that player, if they love him, they're going to try to find a way to get that player. So if there's a Jalen Milroe who we're hearing they're high on, if he falls towards the end of the second round, I think if you're Pittsburgh, you pull the trigger. You know what I mean? They're also high on Shedeur Sanders as well. If he's still available at some point late in the second round, I think if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you pull the trigger, give him a third or fourth, whatever it takes to get back into the second round to potentially go get your quarterback of the future.
I think this for Pittsburgh, it would be if you go get Jalen Milroe, then you have to say, well, why would you let Justin Fields leave? Because you're bringing the same type of athlete at the position in that offense, and that's the concern. And you don't want to tip your hand if you're jumping back into the second round, because you may have to jump a certain team in the NFC to go and get a Shedeur Sanders. So it's almost like because they were kind of waiting for Aaron Rodgers, this is the position they find themselves in. They may be thinking late day 3 in terms of getting a quarterback to bring into add to that fourth number.
So, Emory, if you looked at all those quarterbacks that are available still, that their names are still up there for grabs, who do you think is the best fit for the pieces that they have in place right now in Pittsburgh?
The best player is always the better fit. Like, if you're good enough, you are a perfect fit everywhere, and that's Shedeur Sanders. Especially when you think about walking in the door day one, he's going to have something he's never had at Jackson State or Colorado, and that's a run game. So he's going to cut those sacks in half that he takes. We know he's a great vertical threat in terms of the passing game, so that's the best fit. Outside of Shedeur Sanders, I could entertain a Kyle McCord because I like how scrappy he is. I like how he handled going from being blamed for why Ohio State wasn't winning and then goes to Syracuse and does a fantastic job there in the passing game and has more wins than Florida State. So that's where I think you can also find.
Straight?
I'm just saying, like, we're an analysis network. I provide the analysis for the folks out there watching. So I just want to bring those facts in.
Straight. I'm just minding my business.
He's got that spicy chili pepper.
It's always going to come, but McCord would be the best one.
Okay, so I mean, you threw out a couple names there. Are they worth trading up for? I mean, because you're going to have to give up some stuff.
I love Kyle McCord as well because think about this direction that he chose to take. Left Ohio State to go to Syracuse and won double-digit games. didn't have a lot surrounding him, but he really improved the entire offense with his skill set and his mentality. I love Kyle McCord. But the only 2 quarterbacks, Amanda, I would trade into the second round to get would be Shedeur and Jalen Milroe. Those are the only 2. We know they love Jalen Milroe, the athleticism, and you want to bring him into a situation where he's not forced into action. And the same can be said for Shedeur Sanders. But if they're in the back end in the second round, I think you pull whatever you package together, put it together that you need to go get one of those guys. Any other quarterback, you stay put, try to get him in the 3rd or 4th round.
And we had a conversation about him a little bit earlier about leaving Ohio State and going to a situation and really betting on yourself. Yeah. And we were talking to Danny Cannell about it. And I was saying, do you have more faith in guys like that being in a situation where maybe it's not the perfect situation, but they're willing to bet on themselves, and that mentality transitions a little bit better over to the NFL?
I wouldn't say I have more faith, but it's appealing because I see you do it before.
Yeah.
You left Ohio State where you had 5-star after 5-star after 5-star, and you won ball games. You played fairly well. You go to Syracuse where it's not the same landscape in terms of high-level prospects, but you won. Like, think about it. He went to Syracuse and won 10 games. No one thought that. And he played fairly well outside that Pittsburgh debacle where you threw those interceptions, but he was a baller, so I like that, and I love his ability to make people around him better. That's the best I guess, example of seeing if you have a good quarterback. Jayden Daniels, for example, at Washington, made everyone around him better on the offense. They won ball games. The same can be said for C.J. Stroud, his rookie campaign, and what he did last year. Made everyone around him better because he was him at the quarterback position. Kyle McCord has shown that ability, and that should make him very, very appealing to quite a few organizations in the NFL.
Same can be said for Will Howard, too. He was a scapegoat at Kansas State, goes to Ohio State, was up and down until they needed him to play well, and he turned on those postseasons.
I just realized, I don't love the paparazzi, but if TMZ could stalk Aaron Rodgers, I feel like that would be a little helpful. Just hound him, make a decision already. Emory, Hunt, Bryant, McFadden, we appreciate it. Looking forward to the 2nd and 3rd rounds. It's going to be a lot of fun. Very interesting.
Now we're talking about hockey.
Yeah, now we're going to talk about hockey. Look, there's a lot of teams right now in desperation mode, down 2 games. All of them are playing tonight. We'll get a preview. Yeah, we love the Capitals, but unfortunately they're one of the teams that are up 2 right now, so they're in good standings. We'll talk about that coming up.